Okay, here goes. This is for all of you who thought you knew me, but really don't. And those of you who never did, and may now never want to. This is hard to the core and as real as it gets. I'm a walking example of what happens when bullying never stops. I have been bullied and picked on and beat on to one extreme or another since the day I was born. When I was 4 years old, my mother started training me, so to speak, about the cruelties of life and the cruelties of the world. She started telling me, and I quote, because I heard this so many times that it became drilled into my brain. Dana, you better learn to take care of yourself. Don't ever think that you're ever gonna grow up and get married like your sisters, because nobody's ever going to love you. I'm your own mother, and I can't love you. And I heard that over and over and over again. And through this boyfriend and that boyfriend. And her idea was to teach me how to take care of men, because in her eyes, that's all I would ever be good for, is for lack of a better word, a piece of trash for men to just use and do whatever they wanted to. I started learning this at 4 years old. I performed my first sexual encounter on a man in his 40s at 4 years old. I was forced to go down on this man, and there was nobody to help me, and nobody cared. And all my mother had to say was, you better get used to it, because this is the only way you're ever going to be able to take care of yourself. Now, to keep me from being able to tell anybody, my mother never taught me how to speak English. Both my sisters knew how, but I did not. I only knew how to speak Spanish, which meant she would only be the only person I would ever be able to communicate with. I could not communicate with anybody else. Nobody in my neighborhood was of Mexican descent. Nobody in my neighborhood spoke Spanish. Only she did, and I did. According to the doctors, for starters, the first doctors, when I was born, there was damage to the motor area of my brain. And the doctor said, and I quote, "She will never reach the mentality of anything over a 12-year-old. And if she's ever lucky enough to get any kind of a job, it will have to be one where she can sit down all the time, because she will never be able to do a job where she has to stand on her feet. And walking is going to be a problem for her because of the one leg that's longer than the other. She will need corrective shoes." I wore braces that went all the way up my leg, and all of the kids made fun of me. Nobody wanted to play with me. I was the gimp. I wore these braces until I was 5 years old. The only time I could take them off is if I went swimming. So guess who liked to go swimming a lot? I couldn't wait to go to the pool at the orphanage on the rare occasions that we got to go. I remember after we got moved to the orphanage, I remember my father coming to visit my two sisters. I remember standing at the window, looking out the window at them down on the ground, 3 stories down, wondering why he never wanted to see me. But then it was reminded to me in my brain what my mother always told me. "Dana, nobody's ever gonna love you. So don't ever think it's gonna happen, because it never will." I was bullied by the kids in grade school. I was bullied by the kids in high school. When I was 11 years old, my mother threw me out on the street because I didn't like being beat up. Her latest man in her life. He's the only man she'd ever been with since my daddy that didn't have some kind of sexual encounter with me. I was forced to do things as a child that no child should be forced to do, and nobody cared. I was picked on in school, and nobody cared. When I was 12 years old, I thought I had a friend, and I trusted her with my story. And when she found out that a guy she knew liked me, she told him that I had VD. It wasn't true, but it didn't matter. It broke my heart. Not because the guy didn't want anything to do with me anymore, but because she was supposed to be my friend. And I trusted her. I trusted her with my deepest, darkest secret, and she betrayed me. And that was the beginning of learning that every time I got a friend, if I ever trusted him enough to tell him the truth, they would betray me. So now here I am. I'm opening myself up to you people so that you can betray me too if you choose to. I really don't care anymore. I'm now 58 years old and I have been bullied every day my entire life. There's not really much anything else you can do to me that has not been done to me already. Every time, every single time I get a friend, somebody comes along that says, nope, Dana doesn't deserve that friend. Let me destroy that friendship so I can crush Dana even more. I've gone from totally broken to totally angry, and I'm not allowed to have either one of those feelings, because trust me, there's always somebody standing there ready, willing, and able to tell me, Dana, you do not have the right to feel the way you feel. Well, let me tell you something. Get over here and walk in my shoes. 90% of the people that know me could not deal with the life that I have had to live and come out the way I did. My mother threw me out at 11 years old, guaranteeing herself that I would have to turn tricks to survive. This was her plan. Well, I'm here to tell you, this girl did survive, and this girl graduated high school. Maybe not right on time like all the other kids got to, because they all got to live at home with parents who fed them. I had to work in order to put myself through school. High school, not college, high school. I had a full-time job at 12 years old. I bought all my own clothes, all my own food. Now you can imagine at 12 years old, I didn't make a whole lot of money. In 7th grade, all my eyebrows fell out from malnutrition because I only ate on Friday, Saturday, and Sundays. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, I had to go without food because I had no money. And all these people made fun of me. It wasn't my fault. But yet I was held responsible for something that I had no control over. At 12 years old, I moved in a house with a woman. Her name was Norma. She ran a shop where she sold clothes on consignment. Let me tell you what my day was like, and I'm talking 7 days a week. Except for Saturdays and Sundays, I didn't have to go to school. I had to work all day. I'd get up at 6 o'clock in the morning, and the first thing I had to do was to get all 6 of the foster kids that she was taking care of ready for school. One of them was in a wheelchair and weighed over 150 pounds. I weighed 72.5 pounds. I had to change her colostomy bag and get her ready for school every morning, and then get her in her wheelchair and out to the school bus. After I got all 6 kids ready for school, then it was time for me to get ready for school. I went to school every day. I wouldn't miss a day of school because you got free lunch, if nothing else. At least I got to eat back then. It was terrible. Just no other word for it. I go to school all day long. I come home. First thing I gotta do is get all 6 foster kids in from the school bus and get them all in their positions. Get them all designated doing their homework or whatever. Then it was my job to immediately go to the kitchen, get down on my hands and knees and scrub and mop the kitchen floor every single day. Only to have Norma come home and tell me, it looks like shit. She would tell me that every day. It looks like shit, do it again. It looks like shit, do it again. At At 12 years old, I had my first birthday. First one I'd ever had in my life. With a party with a real cake. I called my mother and asked her if she'd come. I thought maybe it was possible. She only lived 2 blocks down the street. Her response was, "No, Dana, I won't. I have no interest in your birthday." Okay. I never asked her again. I never had another birthday again until I was 16. But that's several years down the road. I guess I was 13 years old the first time I tried to commit suicide. I ran out in front of a car, hoping it would hit me. No, that was the second time. I take that back. The first time was at 5 years old. I ran out in front of a car then, too. They stopped in the middle of the street, got mad at me, and took me home and told my mother. So, yeah, that did me a lot of good. I got in trouble for that, too. Both of my sisters hated me. They used to pick on me all the time, pull my hair out, lock me up in a closet, because they knew I was afraid of the dark. According to the doctors, I went through some kind of trauma at the age of 5, which caused me to lose my memory for an entire 3 years. I have no memory from the first day of first grade until the summer before 4th grade. I know that my mother's Johns, for lack of better wording, phrasing, whatever you want to call it, I was the cherry on the top. While they would sit and wait for my mother to finish putting her makeup and all that on so that she could get all beautiful for their date, I was instructed to take care of them. So I had to do whatever it was they wanted me to do. The first time I got paid for sexual pleasure for a man, I was in 5th grade. I was physically held down and forced to do something I did not want to do. And when I got done pleasing him, my mother came out of the bedroom and she asked him, she said, "Are you done?" He said, "Yeah, we can go now." And he reached in his pocket and he gave me $1. And I pushed it away. "I don't want your money." My mother specifically ordered me, "Dana, take the money. This is what you're in training for." You better start learning to take the money now. That you won't have me anymore to depend on. I won't be here to feed you. You'll have to take care of yourself. So you might as well learn now. So I took it. After she married my stepdad, I had hopes that things would get better. And on a sexual promise, they did. He never made sexual advances to me in any way, shape, fashion, or form. But he sure beat me a lot. I saw walls in ways that most of you wouldn't even think of. The cracks, and it was really embarrassing for whenever my friends would come over. And they'd have to watch me get thrown up against walls and know there was nothing they could do but leave. And they would leave hearing me cry and beg for mercy, knowing there was nothing they could do to help me. So when she threw me out at 11 years old, I won't say I was too awfully upset. I figured, what worse can happen to me than what I'm already going through? I found a lady. She ran a restaurant called Lee Skyline, and she gave me a job. She didn't know my story. She didn't know anything about me. All she knew was I was a kid who needed a job. And so she gave me a job and paid me under the table. And I put myself through school like that. And I worked there for almost 5 years. Until I got 16 years old and I could be a car hop, and you could make more money doing that. I also went to work at a truck stop. I worked there from 16 to almost 20. I got pregnant with the love of my life. I loved him. He didn't love me, but I loved him. I was first example of learning that Mother was right. No man was ever going to love me. All I was ever going to be was a sexual toy. And they would tell me whatever they had to tell me to get what they wanted. I fell in love. I got pregnant. He left me. He didn't mind having sex with me, but he sure didn't want to have no kid. That was okay. I said, I'll make it. I'll be okay. And I continued to work. And I gave birth to a 10-pound, wonderful, lovely boy. The first time I really knew love, other than my granny, but I never really got to see her. I saw her so infrequently that I cherished every little memory I ever had with her, and things she would tell me. Dana, I love you, always make me proud. And I kept those words deep within me. And I tried to always be a good person to make my granny proud. But I knew if Granny knew what them men were doing to me, she wouldn't like me anymore. So I never told. When Charlie was born, I thought my life had changed. I loved him. I loved him more than anything else in the world. And even though his daddy ran out on me, I didn't care. It's gonna be me and Charlie against the world. And it worked until he was 5 years old. And he went to school. And he had a little bruise, no bigger than a pencil, and no longer than an inch on his forehead. And the teacher asked him how he got it. And he said he was playing outside. I asked him that morning how he got it. And he said he got it when he was playing outside and leaned his head up against the bars of the railing at the apartment complex. And they were little skinny bars. It made perfect sense to me when he told me. But according to her, even though he told me what he told her, which was the same thing he told me that morning before, but the teacher said something completely different. She called DHS, and they took him. They took my little boy. The only thing I ever had that I loved, they took him. I begged and pleaded, please don't take my little boy. He's all I got. But they didn't care. They took him anyway. And they were so mean. They were so mean and so hateful. So they told me, they said, well, Dana, here's what you do. You go to DHS and you tell them you need food stamps because you don't make enough money to feed him. I said, I've been feeding and clothing him for 5 years by myself. What do you mean I don't make enough money? Well, according to our standards, you make $6 less a month than you should. Okay. So you want me to go to DHS and apply for food stamps? Yes. Okay, fine. I'll do it. Whatever it takes, I'll do it. That's what you want so I can have Charlie back. You got it. So I go to DHS and I apply for food stamps. And they say, sorry, Dana, you don't qualify. You make $6 a month too much. Okay, will you call CPS and tell them what you told me so that I can have my kid back? Because I really don't care about your freaking food stamps anyway. I just want my kid back. That's all I want. I don't care. Well, no, we can't do that. You have to go take care of it yourself. Okay, fine. So I go back to CPS. I tell Sherby Grider, who was the caseworker at that time, exactly what they told me. And, well, Dana, there's nothing I can do to help you because I'm telling you, you're not going to get him back without food stamps. And all they did was run me from department to department, back and forth, month after month after month after month. This same shenanigan over and over. I said, okay, fine. Nobody's going to help me. I went to the media. They didn't care. They've never cared. I went everywhere. Nobody cared. I said, okay, fine, I'll pick at the governor's mansion. Which is exactly what I did. Of course, got pulled in by a security guard who wanted to let me know that picketing the governor's mansion is illegal. Especially if you don't have a permit. I was a young kid, so I didn't know anything about permits. So he takes me to the underground part of the Capitol and gives me a number of a lady to call the next morning so that I can get them to help me, to be a liaison between CPS and DHS, because at that time it was two different buildings. So I go back the next day to the governor's office, which, by the way, Governor Nye was the governor at that time. Awesome guy, by the way. So I go to Governor Nye's office the next day, and I inform the receptionist of why I'm there. She then informs me that the DHS liaison for the governor's office is starting her vacation Monday, so she took off a day early. And she will be gone for 3 weeks. I said, okay, fine, let me talk to whoever does her job when she's on vacation. I'm sorry. There is nobody who does her job when she's on vacation. You will just have to wait 3 weeks. So now, sorry. Y'all have run me through the ringer enough. It stops right now. So I went to the big glass door that everybody has to open to get to the governor's offices that were at that time all one down hallway, single file. And I sat in front of the door and I said, fine, then nobody gets in this office and nobody gets out of this office until somebody takes care of me, because I'm tired of being ignored, battered, and bruised, and nobody doing what they should be doing. There is no reason I should be separated from my child just because nobody wants to do their job and nobody else cares. And for those of you who don't know me, to say that I have a loud voice is an understatement, because I can walk in the front door of a 2,000 square foot building, and I guarantee you whoever's on the back wall, if I want them to know I'm there, they will know I'm there. Trust me, my voice carries quite well. In fact, I can just imagine my friends that know me real well laughing right now because they know that what I'm saying is true. When this happened, this little old man came out of his office and he said, sweetie, come here. I said, no, I'm serious. I'm not moving. Nobody comes in this door and nobody goes out until somebody takes care of me. He said, honey, they're going to call the police on you. Please come here and let me see if I can help you. And I said, do you really think I care about going to jail at this point? I've lost the only thing in life I care about, my child. That's why I'm telling you, come here and let me see if I can help you. He said, I retire in 3 weeks, so I really don't care anymore. Do you understand what I'm saying? Okay, fine. So I get up off the floor and I go to his office, which is a good thing because as soon as I got up off the floor and I looked out the door, there come 3 police officers. I'm sure they were there to collect me. So I went to his office and he got on the phone and he made a couple of phone calls and he got what needed to be done to get what I needed to satisfy CPS so that I could get my son back. What I was not aware of is the whole time my son was gone, with the exception of when he was in the shelter, because I don't know what happened in the shelter. When he was moved to foster care, I was not allowed to ever see him at all. No phone calls, no letters, no visits, no nothing. They just took him somewhere, and I did not know where he was, and was not allowed to know where he was. He was in the home of 2 pedophiles. They beat him daily. They raped him daily. But I didn't know this. He came home. He was shattered. He was destroyed. He'd wake up in the middle of the night with nightmares, screaming, Mama, help me, Mama, help me. And I never knew what. I thought it was just from separation of me. I never knew what happened to him. I now know. And I found out totally by accident because I was never supposed to know. He struggled for years. I took him to doctors. They put him on medication. The poor little guy tried to get over it. He really did. He tried real hard. He used to tell me all the time, Mama, I'm trying not to have the nightmares no more. But they just won't go away. And I'm like, what nightmares? From when I was gone. I said, honey, they're never going to take you again. I'm not going to let them. That's what I thought he was afraid of. When he was 12 years old, he tried to commit suicide because of the nightmares. And he continually tried and tried and tried and tried to kill himself. I hospitalized him numerous times, trying to find anything to make him hang on and live a little longer. Maybe that was selfish on my part, but I truly did not understand. I finally got him into weekly therapy where he was doing, he'd do pretty good for a while. He told his counselor the truth of what happened to him in foster care. Of course, his counselor never said a word to anybody. I realize that's against the law, but even back then it was against the law to not report child abuse. But he never said anything. In 1998, my son took a .38 to his forehead and shot himself and died. Phone call came from Dallas, Texas. Police officer came to my house to inform me of what happened. I totally lost it. I made arrangements with a funeral home in Dallas, Texas called Lincoln Funeral Home so that they could collect his body from the morgue body and they would cremate him for me because I couldn't afford a funeral. When I talked to him over the phone, they said it would be $2,000 to be able to cremate him and get him shipped back to Oklahoma. So I drove 3.5 hours with $2,000 in my pocket. It was all I could conjure up, borrow, whatever, you know. It was all obtained legally, okay? I didn't steal any of it or anything. That's a whole nother story. People like to make me out as a thief too, but I'm not a thief. I don't steal from people. Okay, I'd rather starve than steal from people. Because, bottom line, I still got Granny up there looking at me. And I want her to be proud of the person that I tried to be. I drove 3.5 hours to Lincoln Funeral Home in Dallas, Texas. And told him, okay, here's my $2,000. I need you to get my son. He said, $2,000? Yes, that's what you told me over the phone. I asked you specifically how much money I needed because I knew I was going to have to borrow some. Oh, well, ma'am, I'm sorry. That was 3 days ago. Yeah? And what's your point? Oh, well, it's gone up. It's now $2,500. I don't have $2,500. I have $2,000. I'm a single mother trying to bury my only son here. Okay? You tell me 3 days ago that it's $2,000 and now here I am with $2,000 and now you want to jack it up another $500. What, you think because I'm from Oklahoma I've got idiot written across my forehead? Shame on you for trying to take advantage of a single mother with no help, whose only son is dead, and you want to take advantage of that. Shame on you. So I told him, leave him at the morgue. Don't touch him. Don't you even touch him. You're not worthy of touching my child. And then, of course, I had to go to the police department. Then I had to go to the hospital because there were bits and pieces of his property all over the place. My son was dead, but pieces of him were all over Dallas, Texas. So I had to go to the police department. I had to go to the hospital. I had to go to the record company. And Dallas said, we would have notified you if we'd have known who you were. And my phone number was right there in the front seat of the car. Okay, clearly somebody wasn't paying attention. And, so I had to drive all the way back to Oklahoma City without my baby. I came here, and I just started calling funeral homes all over the place. You know, just trying to find anybody who would help me get it for around the $2,000 mark, because that's all I had. I finally found a funeral home by the name of Rolfe Funeral Home on Northeast 36th. It's run by a very lovely black family. And they agreed to do it for $1,750. They were angels. They were angels to me. They helped me when nobody else would. They even put up with me when I went to the funeral home to look at him And as soon as I saw him, I passed out in the middle of the floor. I don't know how long I was out. I just know I was. Because other people were there. And they saw me. I had to go to his therapist to inform his therapist that Charlie would not be there for his regular session because, of course, Charlie was dead. And I told his therapist that Charlie won't be coming to any more sessions with you because Charlie couldn't live with the nightmares anymore and he committed suicide. His therapist thought that I knew, and I didn't. And he made the comment, "Dana, I'm so sorry. Sometimes kids just can't get over sexual abuse." I talked to him in detail about what happened in foster care, and he just couldn't get past it. And I'm so sorry. And I looked at him and I said, You knew and you never said anything? Dana, I can't. I'm his doctor, not yours. That's not what I'm talking about. I don't care if you told me or not, but you should have told the law. You should have told somebody. Instead of letting him get away with it. And now he's dead because nobody cared. I understand where he's coming from. He literally thought nobody cared. Just like me. I started then trying to find out who was responsible, who the two men were. That was in 1998. It is now 2017, and I still don't know who they are. Oklahoma does. Representative John Eccles does. They've all read the file. They've all looked in it. I've had them tell me, Dana, I read Charlie's file. It's horrific what happened to him. But nobody will do anything. These two men still walk around free today. And I still get bullied every day. All the time. Every time. The whole time I've been growing up. When I get a friend, somebody comes along and wants to destroy that friendship. They will lie. They don't care. They don't care about my feelings at all. That's why I shot pool for so many years. You don't have to have a friend to shoot pool. Your pool stick is your friend. All you need is a pool stick and some quarters. You don't need any friends. But then when they started lying about me in the pool league about stealing money that I never stole, but yet nobody would back me up on it, people knew it wasn't true. People knew it was a lie. But I still got branded a thief. And I literally got pushed out of shooting pool. Because nobody wanted to look me in the face knowing that I was innocent, and they kept their mouth shut the entire time. It's just not fair. And I know the old saying, believe me, I've told it to myself many a time. Nobody said life was fair. And now here I am. I'm 58 years old, and I have to now admit, my mother told the truth. Way back then. Even though I spent 50 years trying to prove she was wrong, she was right all along. No man ever loved me enough to marry me. And I've been betrayed by just about everybody I know. There's only a few people in my life who've not betrayed me. And there's a couple of people that I'm really close to. I just won't tell anybody who they are, because I know as soon as people know that I have a close friendship with somebody, they'll come along and try to destroy it. Just like they always have. With every friend I've ever had, there's always somebody that's got to come up and make me look like the bad guy so they can destroy the only friend I have. So now I just don't tell who my friends are. I can't. I thought I had a little bit of redemption when my daughter got pregnant with my first grandson. I was wrong. As soon as he was born, here come DHS. They wanted him. He was nice. He was beautiful. Nice and healthy. No drugs in his system. Clean. Big bouncing baby boy. 8-pounder. It would have looked real good on the adoption rolls. They just didn't count on me being the grandma. That was something they weren't planning on. They came to my house. Well, first off, they came to the home that my daughter was staying at. I had to take her there because the daddy had come over to the house and tried to stab her with a knife. And the police informed me that there wasn't going to be anything they'd do to protect her. So I had to. So I had to move her where he couldn't find her, so that the baby would have a chance. So after he was born, while she's still in the home, here comes DHS. They want him. They want him for their adoption rolls. And as soon as I found out about it, I went to the home and I grabbed up Emma and I grabbed up Evan and I took them. And the DHS worker called me on the phone and said, "What do you think you're doing?" "Protecting my family. You have no legal right to take this child. He's not abused, he's not malnutritioned, he's not drug addicted, he's not nothing. The only thing wrong with this child is he was born to a single parent. And the last time I checked, that is not against the law." But she wanted that bonus money. She wanted that federal Title IV fund bonus money. So she was determined that she was going to get him at all cost.
And I knew this because when they went to the home to try and take him the first time, Emma tried to call me on the phone, and the home shut the phone off, ripped it out of the wall to keep her from calling me. What they did not know is that I had given her a cell phone. She ran into the room, called me on the cell phone, and told me what was going on. I told her, go back in the main room, stick the cell phone in your pocket because I want to hear what's going on. While the cell phone's in her pocket, Emma does as I instructed her. She asked the supervisor of the caseworker, because both of them were there at the same time, do you have a warrant? She ignored it. Emma insisted, do you have a warrant? Because you cannot take my child without a warrant. The supervisor then said, I don't have one yet, but I will when I get back. I heard all this while I'm in my car driving to the home. She leaves to go get the warrant. I pull up at the home. I start loading Emma into the car. The house mother at the house immediately gets on the phone with DHS and says, her mother's here picking her up and taking her out of here now. What am I supposed to do? And I heard her. So I poked my head in her office and I said, you're not going to do anything. This is my grandchild. It's not yours. Okay? I know you're looking for the bonus money, but find another one. This one's mine. It's my only grandchild. How can you be so heartless to call yourself the Holy Family Home run by Catholic Charities and you're helping DHS steal children? How can you call yourself Christians when all you're doing is bullying my family? I've had enough. So I took her. And they called me on my cell phone while I'm driving home. What are you doing? I'm driving home. Well, we came to get the child. Well, I'm sorry. You missed your golden opportunity. I'm not here anymore. And neither is the child. Well, I'm coming to your house. Fine. Well, I want you there right now. Well, I'm not there right now. You'll have to wait till I get there. Well, I have to work. What, and you think I don't? So we went home. I told Emma, you stay here at the house. You lock everything up. Tight as a drum. If anybody knocks on the door, you pretend you're not here, but I've got to go to Walmart and get a bassinet for this baby. So that's what I did. I went, I got the bassinet, I came home, I put it all together, I put the sheets and everything on it to make it all look really nice, and I bought a little mobile for it and everything, and I put Evan down for his nap. He was freshly fed, freshly bathed, freshly changed. 10 o'clock at night, a knock comes on the door. It's a police officer, Officer Pershika. I open the door. How can I help you? I'm here to check on the welfare of a child. Are you seriously kidding? Are you serious right now? She actually called you people because she's that bent out of shape that she didn't get her bonus money? Police officer said, well, all I know is this woman, who appeared to be drunk over the phone, calls me and claims to be a caseworker and says we need to do a welfare check on an Evan Lahan. if you'll just let me see the child, if I can verify that the child is fine and that there's food in the house for the child alone. Well, while I'm doing all of this, Emma goes and locks herself in the bathroom with Evan. So I have to coax her out of the bathroom and convince her that this police officer is not going to run off with her child before she will let me show him the baby. She gives me Evan out the bathroom door. I show the baby to the officer. He says, I hate to have to ask you to do this, but I'm going to have to ask you to remove his clothes. So I removed every stitch of clothing he had. Showed him Evan's whole front, Evan's whole back, everything. He says, okay. There's not a mark on this child. This child's perfectly healthy. All I need to see is that you have diapers and food. Of which I showed him. He said, okay, that's fine with me. You can give him back to his mother now. So I gave him back to Emma. And out to the front porch I went with the police officer while he called the caseworker and Tiffany McDaniel Fears. Okay? You sleazeball. He calls her on the phone and he's got it on speaker. And he's right. She clearly was intoxicated on something. She was slurring her words and everything. Well, you tell her I want to be there at 8 o'clock in the morning, and she best, if she knows what's good for her, be there. So he told me, he said, well, okay, you heard her. But by the way she's talking, I'm not so sure she's going to remember tomorrow. So you might want to call and remind her. So I called the next morning to remind her. And sure enough, she didn't remember. And she was upset with me for calling her. And I said, well, you and the police officer both made a deal that you would be here this morning to check on the welfare of Evan. And so I'm just calling to make sure you're coming. Yeah, I'll be there before I have to go to work. Okay, fine. I'll call my job and tell them I'm running late. So I did that. She came out. She inspected Evan. Said everything was fine. Told me I could go to work. And then as soon as I left for work, she gets her little private list of crooked police officers. See, DHS has a list. When a good cop won't take your kid, then they've got this little list at the office, and it's filled with crooked police officers who will take your kid. Officer Whitehead, he's on that list. They come to my house, they bust through the door, they chase Emma through the house, and they literally jerk Evan out of her arms. I'm on the phone and I inform the police officer that the caseworker has 2 active warrants for her arrest. Now, mind you, I'm at work. And guess what I do for a living? I work for a court reporting firm. I'm with lawyers all day long. And I'm telling a police officer that this woman in my house has 2 active warrants for her arrest, 1 felony and 1 misdemeanor. And he proceeds to tell me he does not care. And takes my grandson anyway. On the word of a convicted felon who currently has 2 more warrants for her arrest. And nobody cares. I went to Channel 4. They didn't care. They specifically told me to my face they did not care. I went to Channel 5. They did not care. I went to Channel 9 with a 1-inch stack of documents. that proved my case and the criminal record of the caseworker and the fact that I have a perfectly clean record, never even had a traffic ticket, and I'm now well into my 40s. This was 2008, so I'm like 40 something, I don't remember. Okay, I can't think right now. But I've had a perfect driving record from 16, and I'm now 58, and I still have a perfect driving record. I've only had one ticket in my life, and I already proved that was an illegal ticket, and that's another story. That ticket I did not get until after the caseworker called the police department and told them where I lived so that they could harass me some more. Because she had already forced me out of the home with the help of Judge Donald Easter. She'd already forced me out of the home that I bought and paid for. There were no mortgage payments on it. It was paid for free and clear, and I couldn't live in it. Because Judge Donald Easter granted a one-way BPO, which means I had to stay 500 feet away from her, but she could get as close to me as she wanted, and there wasn't a damn thing I could do about it. She started parking in my driveway, parking in front of my house, driving down the street when I'm mowing the lawn, which means I have to stop mowing my lawn and go to the backyard so that I can maintain the 500 feet distance. Is that not insane? This is all documented, proven, and stamped into court record. And still nobody cares. Nobody'll help me. If I'd have been a drug-addicted grandma, I'd have lines of people just lined up around the block ready to support me. A drug-addicted mama who come clean. But because I'm 100% innocent and I did nothing wrong, and I worked for the law in a sense, I was working for the courts, not juvenile courts, because I sure wouldn't have stayed that long if I'd have known all this was going on. I worked for the courts. I was a good girl. I went to work every day. I paid my bills. I took care of my children. And I was being railroaded. And even though everybody knew it, nobody cared. I had to do this all by myself. I'm forced out of the home that I bought and paid for all by myself because I've never been married, remember? I did this all alone. And then when I started exposing her and her criminal activity, I get charged with a crime that everybody knew I didn't commit and get thrown in jail and denied bond. All because they got pissed off because when they arrested me the first time, I had a friend who knew how to work the jail and bailing and bonding system and all of that. And they worked it up for me to do what was called a walkthrough. I'd never been in any kind of trouble, so I had no idea what was going on. They stepped up and they helped me and got me what was called a walkthrough. I had no idea what that was. But it takes about an hour instead of being arrested and then waiting 6 hours to be able to get booked in and be able to call a bondsman and all this other stuff that's supposed to go along with it that I don't know anything about because I've never been in any trouble. So they got it all pre-worked to where basically all I had to do was walk into the jail, prove that I was who I was, give them my fingerprints, let them take my ugly picture, and then I could be checked out. on an ORR or however they say that. On my own recognizances on bail. Well, it didn't take very long for the caseworker to find out what happened. She immediately called the assistant district attorney, Reagan Vincent, who, by the way, is another crook. She calls Reagan Vincent and she said, I thought you were going to keep her in jail. To the tune, Reagan says, well, I had her arrested. Well, she's back out already. Well, yeah, that's her legal right. Well, I want her in jail. And I want her to stay there. So Reagan Vincent orders a no bond warrant. And to make it look good, she writes it up, failure to appear in court, for a court hearing that on her own records, she clearly forgot to check her calendar. Because if you did the math, you'd see that they say I miss court on Sunday. They don't hold court on Sunday. But nobody cared. So they held me without bond, even though I didn't commit a crime. Then I get out, and they issue another warrant for violation of a VPO. Now get ready for this. The warrant was issued for violating a VPO 9 months before the VPO was ever written. The VPO was written on October 23rd, 2008. The warrant was issued for violating the VPO January 1st, 2008. 9 months before the VPO was even written. And 5 months before I'd even met the woman called Ann Tiffany McDaniel fears to, quote, violate the VPO in the first place. I never knew the woman in January of 2008. I had not met her yet until April of 2008. So how the hell can I violate a VPO that ain't been written yet? But nobody cared. I pointed it out to them. Nobody cared. I had 2 police officers who I proved in court filed fraudulent police reports, which, by the way, is supposed to be against the law, but it's not. Not if you're a cop. I have one report from a police officer who said she did a thorough investigation of me and spoke to me at my home, and the address she gave as my, quote, home was a house that I lived in 20 years ago, before I had ever bought the house that I had lived in for the past 18. She did such a thorough investigation that she forgot to go to the county assessor's website and find out that I bought my house in 1992. But according to her, I lived in a house that I used to live in 1990. That's how thorough her investigation was. False police report. Charges filed? Of course not. She's part of the system. Officer Bland in Midwest City. Another crook. And blatantly admitted it to me over the phone. He said he knew that his police report was a lie, but he didn't care, 'cause it was my word against his. Now, he calls me on the phone. He says, I'm issuing you a warrant for your arrest. I said, why? For violation of a VPO. How can you get me for violating a VPO? I'm in my own house. Well, I happen to know that at 1:32 this afternoon, you were in Midwest City threatening a DHS worker on Southeast 29th and Post Road. I said, I'm sorry to inform you of this, mister, but I've never in my life been to Southeast 29th and Post Road. Sorry. I don't know where that DHS office is. I've never been there. I saw you there. No, you didn't. There's no way you saw me at 1:32 this afternoon in Midwest City, and I can guarantee it. He said, but can you prove it? I said, yes, I can. Because at 1:32 this afternoon, I was on my front porch in the, what do you call that? At 1:32 in the afternoon, I had an Oklahoma County sheriff on my front porch serving me with a VPO at that time. Now, here's the kicker. My house is 16 miles away from the DHS office in Midwest City. There's no way I could have been at my house at 1:32 in the afternoon and at the DHS office in Midwest City 16 miles away at 1:32 in the afternoon. It's impossible to be in two places at the same time. He said, well, I guess that's your problem to deal with, isn't it? Because I'm sticking with my story. I have all the documents. I have where he wrote 1:32. I have where Oklahoma County wrote 1:32 on their documents. I brought it all up in court. Nobody cared. I was fraudulently arrested, maliciously prosecuted. Nobody cared. I went to court. I had to beg for 2 years to get a trial. Reagan Vincent hammered me for 18 months, twice a month. Every month I had to go to court. You ready to plead guilty? Nope. I'm not. I'm sorry. I know you want me to plead guilty and make this bad nightmare go away. But I will not stand in a court of law and swear on a stack of Bibles to tell the truth and then lie to cover your ass. It will not happen, so just deal with it. Well, then we're going to press federal charges on you, and you'll go to prison for 10 years. For a crime I did not commit. Well, okay, fine. Then I'll go to prison. Not because I broke the law, but because y'all did. And clearly you have no problem with doing that. You don't care about justice. You just want to win another case and get another notch in your belt. Needless to say, Reagan Vincent didn't like me. And I really don't care. She was prosecuting an innocent woman that she knew was innocent. Now, for these whole 18 months, I get told, well, Dana, we have you on audio tape threatening the caseworker. Great! Rules of discovery say you have to give me a copy. I want a copy of it. Every time they said that for 18 months, that's what my response was. Rules of discovery say you have to give me a copy. I want a copy of it. They never would give me a copy. You know why? Because there never was a tape. Because I never threatened the caseworker. It was all a lie. A lie to bully and badger me some more. I went to Governor Keating. He didn't care. I went to First Lady Keating. Spoke to her personally. She didn't care either. I have tape recordings telling me that the two pedophiles will never be prosecuted because they're protected. Nobody cares. So I decided it was time to fight fire with fire. So I did. I decided to start doing background checks on all the check on Ann Tiffany. I did a complete background check on Green. What was her name? Green. Her last name was Green. It's written on court documents. She's very well known. According to the Baptist Children's Home had a nice nickname for her. They called her the Black Widow. That was what it was. So they sat me down in court before we had to go in to see Judge Shaw, another crook, and told me, well, this is just a preliminary hearing, a just cause hearing. I need you to sign this document. I look at this document and I said, this says you're putting him up for adoption. We haven't even been found guilty of a crime yet, and you're already putting him up for adoption? How can you do that? We haven't even had our 72-hour hearing yet, and you've already got an adoption paper made out. That's illegal. Just so you know that I know, I actually work for a court reporting firm. I do know a little bit about the law. I do research it. Okay? This is illegal. And she says, Dana, I'm just telling you what you and Emma got to do. Well, I'm just telling you that I'm fixing to start exposing everybody's criminal records, including yours, dear. Yeah, I know you got one too. Well, needless to say, she quit like 30 days later, okay? I guess she was afraid I was going to expose her criminal record. I took the warrants for Ann Tiffany McDaniel Fears to the governor's office. They didn't care. All they did was make them disappear. I've been railroaded this whole time. And I've learned this one cardinal rule when dealing with CPS and all this crap. If you've got any kind of guilt, everybody and their uncle will support you. If DHS can prove just a little something, maybe you smoked a joint once a week or something. Just some little something. Even if it's not really anything. But if you've done some little something that DHS can hang you for, everybody and their uncle will support you. But if you're 100% innocent, nobody gives a damn, and that's the frickin' truth. Now, my son is dead. And I've gone to representatives, senators, governors, presidents, seeking justice for 20 years. And I still get no justice. It's not right. It's not right what was done to me. It's not right what was done to my daughter. None of it was right. What they did was wrong. Not only do I know that it's wrong, but I had 4 lawyers who knew it was wrong. My case stunk so bad that the only thing they could think of was a way to get me to shut up. So they went to my boss. My boss came back to the back office and he said, Dana, you got 2 choices. You can either fight for your grandson or you can keep your job, but you can't do both. We take depositions for DHS all the time. Oh, I understand your contract with DHS, a crooked organization who has no problem committing perjury, is more important than the life of a child. And you, being a grandfather, can look me square in the eye and tell me that? You know what they did to Charlie. You know they're responsible for his death. So, and yet you have no problem with them doing it to my grandson too? Dana, what happened to your son is not going to happen to your grandson. Can you guarantee that? Yes. No, you can't. You can't guarantee that. So they put my grandson in... Well, that was Wednesday. I know this because I've got this one memorized down in my brain like you wouldn't believe. That was on a Wednesday. Payday was Friday. I knew if I quit on Wednesday that they would drag my check out as long as they possibly could. So I went ahead and finished Wednesday. And then I worked Thursday. And then I worked Friday. And it was gut-wrenching. Those days were absolutely gut-wrenching. And all those lawyers, several of them, I won't say all, that was wrong, I shouldn't have said all, but several. One of which I saw almost daily. They all knew what was being done to me was wrong. And I begged them for help. And even though they were on the board for Lawyers for Children, they looked at me square in the eye and told me they didn't do that kind of law. And all that did was make me mad. So I told them, well, if you don't do that kind of law, why are you on the board for Lawyers for Children? If you don't do that kind of law. Dana, I don't have time to talk to you about this right now. Okay. Well, guess who one of the lawyers was that knows my story and saw me every day? Governor Fallon's husband, Wade Christensen. Did he offer to help when I begged him? Nope. I later on got a lawyer who was ordered off my case. Got another lawyer. He was ordered off my case. Got a lawyer called Alex Bednar. He tried. The Oklahoma Supreme Court suspended him to keep my case out of court. And he found another lawyer who I had for 48 hours. She basically called, said, I'm your new lawyer. We need to get together. The next day, I call her to make arrangements. When are we going to get together? We're not. I'm not your lawyer anymore. So the Supreme Court let me know, you don't have a lawyer. So now you don't have a case. It's dismissed. Everybody covered for everybody, but nobody covered for me. And I didn't need covering. All I needed was the truth to be told. When Evan was in foster care and started getting abused, I made 7 different incident reports. Every time he got abused, I went to Lisa Smith at OCCY And I made an incident report, complete with documentation and photographs, to the point that nothing was done. And then a gentleman by the name of Dana, of all things, who worked there, said he was going to fix it. That what was being done was not right, and he was going to make it right. Yeah. One of many, many multiple lies that I've been told over the years. I lost everything. I lost all the, quote, so-called friends I thought I had, many of which weren't really my friends. They didn't really like me anyway. They just tolerated me. I didn't really have friends. I had people I associated with. Most of those were people who shot pool. But I even remember being bullied by one of my pool teams to the point that one of the players sat within 10 feet of me when a lie was being told about I supposedly was going to jump off the balcony at the Stardust Hotel. And she sat right there in front of a whole group of people and said, I wish she would have jumped and I wish she would have died. I've never done anything to this woman. And then years later tried to tell me that she had nothing to do with it. And I told her, I'm sorry. But I sat right there and heard you tell people that you wished I would have jumped and you wished I would have died. Why? I never did anything to you. Because being part of the in crowd was to hate me and so you had to go along? Do you not have any backbone to stand up on your own 2 feet? This is the way I get treated. And I don't do anything to anybody. You ask people who really know me, I mean really know me, I am the most giving, helpful person I can be. I help people that other people wouldn't even dream of helping. Just because I know what it's like to be the underdog. Day after day, year after year. I've always been the underdog. Nobody has ever had my back. And now here I am at 58 years old and in poor health, and now I'm blinded, completely blind in one eye. And I'm still on my own, all alone. Because they don't want to ruffle the feathers of the person who's bullying me at the time. They don't care that I'm being bullied and my heart's being broken and I'm being ripped from limb to limb. They don't care about that. All they care about is making the person who's bullying me happy at the time. It's just not fair, and I don't deserve it. I've been nothing but giving to people. Because of DHS, I lost my right to volunteer with the Salvation Army and the Red Cross. I spent 3 days in a warehouse, straight, no sleep, taking care of people from Hurricane Katrina. Just because that's the kind of person I am. I know people would like to think that I'm a worthless piece of shit, but I got news for you. I'm not near as worthless as these stupid internet lies that keep running around about me. Specifically, those lies from the so-called advocate, Jerry Pfeiffer, the 3-time convicted felon. telling everybody that when she went to high school, which, by the way, she went to high school in Iowa. Keep this check right here, because there's going to be a test. You're going to be tested on it. Let's see how quick you can catch on to this conversation. She has plastered all over the internet that while in high school, her and I got high together, smoking pot underneath the bleachers at high school. Number one, she went to high school in Iowa. I went to high school in Oklahoma. I have lived in Oklahoma my entire life. I was born here. I can prove it with my birth certificate. I can prove that at the time that she says we were smoking pot under the bleachers in high school, I was actually going to Southeast High School in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. So, I want to see that joint that whoever rolled that would stretch 4 states. But yet you stupid pieces of shit can't figure out that you've been lied to and allowed yourself to be played for a fool by believing a line of shit story that I got high with some idiot in high school that I never even met until 2011. And the only reason I met her is because she found me online because of my experience at taking down DHS workers and several judges, I might add. And she wanted my help. And I offered to help her, not knowing that the reason that she lost her grandchild was because she physically abused him and sent him sailing 10 feet down a concrete ramp. And there's a videotape to prove it. But I'm the piece of shit. You want to judge me for smoking a 4-foot-long or 4-state-long joint in high school? I don't know how we pass that sumbitch back to each other. Beside the fact that I've never been on bleachers in my life, not before high school or after. But you go ahead and believe that story if you want. Because Lord knows, a lie will travel halfway around the world while the truth is still trying to get its shoes on. And you idiots are allowing her to play you for a fool. Now, well, shall we talk about the trick that y'all played on Christmas? Where y'all spread all over the internet that I was going to commit suicide? And that everybody needed to get on the horn and find me ASAP so that the cops could pick me up and cart me away for my own safety so that I could be locked up for Christmas? Shall we discuss that little trick? That whole story was a lie. And Honey Bowman and Jerry Pfeiffer both knew it. They made it up. They took a piece of the truth from when I wanted to commit suicide in 2008 and passed it off as though I really was going to do it in 2015. And they had everybody on the internet trying to find me. But because of the caseworkers' constant harassment of me, and the fact that I had to change cell phones 8 different times because of the constant death threats, bitch, if you don't shut up, you're going to find yourself the victim of the latest drive-by, okay? That now I have a cell phone that only 6 people have the phone number to. If I make a phone call, it goes private. If you don't answer it, your loss can't help you. I had to move 4 different times because caseworker kept following me. And she kept calling cops and getting them to harass me, even though I hadn't done anything. So here's Jerry Pfeiffer trying to find out where I live. Unfortunately for her, nobody knows. Because now I've moved a 4th time and didn't tell anybody. The only person who knew where I lived was my landlord, and nobody knows who my landlord is. So, with the exception of my daughter, and she won't tell you. Period. Flat, plain, blunt. She won't tell you. She wouldn't tell you where I lived. Just because I knew that eventually DHS would start harassing her for my whereabouts. So I made sure she didn't know. Just so she could be protected. Now, how bad is that? You lose a job because of corruption. You lose your home that you paid for because of corruption. You lose your car that you paid for because of corruption. You're forced to go on disability and live on $590 a month. Nobody in their right mind can live on that. But I've been doing it. Yeah, I do go days without eating. I don't have any choice. I don't have the frickin' money. They're wanting me to die. Because they don't want my story out there. And nobody else does either. Well, I'm tired of keeping my mouth shut. And I'm tired of trying to say 5 words only to be cut off. People ask me and tell me they care about my story. But as soon as I open my mouth, I get cut off. The one thing about doing this video, can't nobody cut me off because there ain't nobody here but the dog and the cat and the lizard. And none of them can talk. I've had it. I'm done. I'm done with people. I'm done with crooked courts. I'm done with crooked cops, crooked judges. I'm done with the whole lot of them. That's why I started getting even. I started exposing these judges who were crooked. I remember March 23rd was the day. Howard Hendrick was having a sex party at his house. They hired his pretty little blonde stripper from Dallas, Texas, who drove down here in her little Mercedes. I called Channel 4, Channel 5, Channel 9, Channel 25, Channel 34, and told them all. I'm sitting out front of Howard Hendrick's house while he's in the process of having a sex party. And there's a Bethany police officer here in his official vehicle in attendance at this party. He's there as a guest. Now, you want to know how I know this? Because I had a subpoena for Howard Hendrick. And I knew that Howard wouldn't answer the door for me. So we hired an independent process server. And when he opened the door, there stood the stripper, naked as a jaybird. And Howard had no idea. He thought the process server was a guest to the party. Until he said, come on in. And he said, I'm looking for Howard Hendrick. He said, I'm him. And he said, you've been served. And there she stood, naked as a jaybird. So I wrote down every tag number and every description of every vehicle that was there. And I got the names of everybody. The lawyer that worked for DHS who was in attendance, the Bethany police officer who was there in attendance, Howard Hendrick who was there in attendance, the gentleman who supplies all the RV motorhomes for the Oklahoma elite, governors and etc., etc. This is where they buy all their mobile homes from. The funeral director who has a contract for any and all bodies of people who die at the jail. I had all their names. 2 hours into the party, I called the media again, and they still refuse. They do not care. So you see, when it comes to DHS and the courts and being crooked, you can't even count on the media to tell the truth, 'cause they don't care. They're all part of the same system. So go ahead. Come after me again. Go ahead, kill me. I don't care. I really don't. I've had enough. I've been bullied every day, and I'm going to continue to be bullied, because nobody's ever going to give a shit enough to step up and say, okay, that's it. Enough is enough. It's time somebody stood in Dana's corner. Well, too bad you can't see. But as you can tell by not hearing anything but my own voice, there's nobody in my corner. I'm in my own little corner, in my own little world, all by myself. And I've been this way for 58 years. Thank you very much. The one friend I have, I now have to keep secret. Because soon as somebody finds out, they're in there trying to drive a wedge between our friendship. It's happened twice already. I have another friend. She doesn't live in this state, but she's been with me since 2008. And she'll tell you that what I'm saying, not only in this part of the tape, but the whole tape, that what I'm saying is true. As soon as people found out on the internet that she was my best friend, the first thing they try to do is push me out of the way and become her best friend. Ain't that right, Chris Cooley? Tell them how it is. Tell them how people don't want you to be my friend. Because nobody wants Dana to have a friend, period. And they'll tell any lie they have to achieve their desired goal. I've had enough. I'm done. Now, do I seem a little angry to you? Yeah. Wouldn't you be if you were in my shoes? And you have only gotten the highlights. This is all I could give you in this short amount of time, and it was still too damn long. So the next time that you want to make yourself feel better by bullying somebody and jumping on their back, why don't you pick somebody who's not already down in the ground? If you want to be really big and bad and powerful, why don't you at least pick somebody who's on their knees? I'm not even on my knees anymore. Walking on me is not a major achievement because I'm already so far down I'll never get back up. I've lost everything. Literally. If it wasn't out of the goodness of my landlord's heart, by charging me such cheap rent, I wouldn't even have a place to live. And that's the honest to God fact. Not that any of you care. That's why none of you will find out who my landlord is, because I know there would just be people beating a path to my landlord's door to get me out in the street, to make me suffer even more. Why you people get such a thrill out of watching me suffer, and why you get such a thrill out of walking all over me, I'll never know. I guess you people have no life of your own. That trampling on mine is all you got going for you. Well, what a sad state of affairs you're in. I'm running around trying to help people, and you're running around trying to trample on me. What's that make you look like? Maybe you ought to stop and take a second look at yourself in the mirror. I personally try not to look at myself in the mirror too much because I already know I'm ugly. Okay, there's no doubt about it in my mind. Okay, I have aged 10 years in the last 6 months. That ain't no lie. And I've been sick with the flu for 2 weeks, so that doesn't help my looks either. So if I was really worried about my looks, do you think I'd be sitting here doing a video while I'm in the middle of dealing with the flu? With no makeup on at all? Because I don't care. You understand? I don't care anymore. You people have beaten me down to the point I just don't care anymore. Why can't you just leave me alone? I don't bother anybody. I mean, I know you think that because I'm down, I'm easy pickings. Oh, well, let's just go jump on Dana. She's already so far down in the gutter, she'll never get up. She's easy pickings. I might be easy pickings, but I won't go quietly. You come after me, I'll come after you. You talk shit about me, I'll tell the truth about you. So be very careful when you want to lie about me on the internet or anywhere else. Be very careful that you don't have any skeletons in your closet that I might know about. Because as soon as somebody comes to me with the lie that you told about me, I'm going to tell them the truth about you. And I don't really care if they believe me or not. The truth is what it is. The truth is the truth. Whether you can handle it or not, the truth is what it is. And you can claim all day long that the truth is not real, but it is. And there ain't a damn thing you can do to change it. As Jack Nicholson said, the only problem with you is you can't handle the truth. I'm going to tell the truth 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And if you can't handle it, then you might not want to talk to me, because I will not lie to make you feel better. Plain and simple. If you don't like me, then at least have as much guts as I do to walk up and tell me you don't like me. Because Lord knows if I don't like you, I'll damn sure tell you. I will not cut any punches on that deal. I am one person that you will never meet again in your lifetime. I may not be the best person you ever met, but you'll never meet another one. All of you people that think that I'm a piece of shit are the ones who really don't know me. 'Cause let me tell you, once you get into my heart and I call you my friend, I will do anything to help you. I am the most loyal friend. Maybe not your only loyal friend, but one of the most loyal friends that you could ever have. And if you choose to deprive yourself of a person like me, who's honest, loyal, dependable, that's your loss, not mine. So deal with it. Now I'm done. And I hope all of you enjoyed what I said about it was time for me to get real. 'Cause you ain't gonna get no more real than that.